The moment I pulled into the driveway of my modest home in Willow Creek, a quiet suburb outside Portland, Oregon, on a crisp September evening in 2024, I knew something was wrong. My sturdy brick wall, the one I'd spent a sweaty weekend building 3 years ago, lay in ruins, chunks scattered across the lawn like a child had gone wild with a sledgehammer. I didn't panic. My pulse didn't race. I just stood there, keys dangling from my hand, and muttered under my breath. Lisa finally snapped. Because who else in our sleepy little neighborhood would have the nerve to demolish my wall without so much as a text? Lisa, my neighbor, had a reputation for treating property lines like suggestions and common courtesy like an optional extra. I was still taking in the wreckage when I heard the sharp tap-tap-tap of high heels on asphalt. There she was, Lisa, mid-40s, face frozen in a smug grin that screamed she'd just done me a favor. She sauntered over, arms crossed, radiating the kind of confidence that comes with zero self-awareness. "You're welcome," she said, waving a manicured hand at the rubble. "That wall was hideous, totally out of place. Now our yards connect much more neighborly, don't you think?" I stared at her, torn between laughing and digging a trench right then and there. "Neighborly," I echoed, voice flat. "Lisa, that was my wall. On my property." She flicked her wrist like she was shooing a mosquito. "Oh, come on. Property lines are just lines. Besides, the HOA didn't sign off on that eyesore." That was her catchphrase. The HOA didn't approve it. Lisa wasn't even on the HOA board, but being married to Greg, the president, made her act like she ruled Willow Creek. She'd patrol the neighborhood with her phone camera, snapping pics of violations like misplaced trash cans or untrimmed hedges. I crouched down, picking up a jagged piece of brick, still warm from the day's sun. "Who did this?" I asked. "A friend," she said, too fast. "He owed me a favor." I didn't press for a name. I was already picturing Greg's buddy, Mike, a contractor with a sketchy permit history and a knack for botched jobs. Last year, he'd accidentally built a pergola that crept onto the neighbor's lot. This time, it seemed, he'd graduated to demolition. "So, you thought tearing down my wall was for the greater good?" I asked, standing up. She adjusted her sunglasses and sighed. "It was divisive. We need openness, connection. Now the kids can run between our yards. We could even do joint barbecues." My voice went colder than the Oregon rain. "Lisa, I don't have kids, and I'm not hosting barbecues." She didn't hear me or didn't care. With a final toss of her hair, she strutted back to her pastel McMansion, calling over her shoulder, "You'll thank me later." I wasn't mad. Not the kind of mad that makes you yell. I was calm, and that's when I'm dangerous. I don't scream. I plan. Lisa had just handed me a golden ticket for revenge, signed in brick dust and arrogance. First, I called my cousin, Nico, who runs a small beekeeping operation just outside town. He's got a portable apiary setup and a sense of humor as sharp as mine. "I've got a project," I told him. "Legal?" he asked. "Mostly," I said. He laughed. "I'm in. Friday work." Next, I dug out the old chicken wire and scrap wood from my garage, leftovers from when I first moved in. Then I called the county records office to get a certified copy of my property line map laminated, for effect. I wanted it bulletproof. The next day, I spent my lunch break hammering stakes into the ground, stringing up a makeshift fence 2 feet back from where my wall once stood. I left a 6-foot gap in the middle, the perfect spot for Nico's bees. Friday rolled in, warm and humming. Nico pulled up in his beat-up van, grinning like he'd just won a bet. "How spicy do you want these bees?" he asked, unloading pastel-painted hives because I'm petty like that. "Assertive, but legal," I replied. "Enough to remind Lisa where her yard ends." We set up 4 hives in the gap, hung a sign that read, "Caution, active beehives. Do not approach. County Permit 8923, and stepped back to admire our work. The permit was fake, but Lisa wasn't the type to check. She didn't notice right away, but by Saturday, the buzzing was impossible to ignore. I watched from my kitchen window as she stormed down her communal path, freezing when she saw the hives. Her mouth formed a silent "what?" before she spun around and marched back home. 30 minutes later, Greg knocked on my door, clutching a clipboard like it gave him authority. "There's concern about an infestation," he said. "It's not an infestation if it's intentional," I replied, sipping coffee. "They're managed bees, eco-friendly, fully legal." He shifted. Lisa says I cut him off. Lisa bulldozed my wall. This is my response. Unless the HOA's new policy is destroying private property, I'd love to discuss this at the next meeting. He mumbled something about reviewing the bylaws and left. By Monday, the neighborhood had split. Those secretly cheering me on and those too scared of Lisa to admit they were impressed. She didn't confront me directly, but she went full chaos mode, spreading rumors about dangerous insects and scaring kids with rants about bioterrorism. That backfired when she made little Sophie Miller cry, earning her a scolding from Sophie's mom and 3 other parents who pointed out the bees were harmless. By Thursday, she'd called animal control. I met the officer, Claire, with coffee and Nico's beekeeping license. She inspected the hives, thanked me for supporting pollinators, and whispered, "Lisa's the one who called, right? We've dealt with her before." Then came the escalation I didn't see coming. Saturday morning, I was tweaking the fence when I heard Lisa's voice, sharp and demanding. "I want a gate." She stood just on her side of the line, arms crossed, practically vibrating with rage. "A gate?" I repeated. "Yes, for access between our yards. It's logical. The HOA would approve." I tilted my head. "Lisa, the last time you made something logical, I lost a wall. If your guests need access, they can use your driveway." She stepped close to the hives. A bee buzzed past her face. She flinched, hissed, "This is harassment," and retreated. I called after her. "You destroyed my property. This is just me enjoying my yard." But Lisa wasn't done. By Monday, a chain-link fence appeared on her side, tall and shiny, with a gate that opened directly into my yard 2 inches over the line. I confirmed it with my survey map, then got to work. By morning, her gate was blocked by hanging planters filled with mint and basil, strung across like a fragrant barricade. A sign read, "Private garden, no trespassing." She didn't say a word, but her silence was louder than any tantrum. Then came the HOA letter, all pomp and vague threats about aggressive wildlife and unauthorized flora. I sent back a reply, polite but laced with venom, citing their own rules and attaching a county inspector's approval of my hives. The next escalation wasn't a letter, it was a saw. I caught Lisa trying to cut down my fence post, mid-swing with a reciprocating saw. "Adjusting," she claimed. I snapped a photo. "That's my property, Lisa. Smile for the evidence." She dropped the saw and fled. I kept it. Deputy Carter arrived 2 hours later, reviewed my paperwork, and laughed. "Weaponized bees? Creative." He told Lisa it was a civil matter and to back off. She didn't. Sunday morning, I watched her and Greg rally neighbors for a safety committee to ban my hives. I joined the crowd, coffee in hand. "Can I sign up?" I asked. Lisa looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. A few neighbors, including sweet Mrs. Harper, spoke up in my favor. "The bees haven't hurt anyone," she said. "Unlike that wall demolition." Then came the theft. Nico called me one morning, voice tight. "One of my hives is gone. Security footage shows someone in a sun hat with a dolly." I knew exactly where to look. In Lisa's garage, I found Nico's hive, lid ajar, bees swarming. Lisa stood there, swatting at them with a magazine, screaming when she saw me. "I confiscated it," she yelled. "It's a biohazard." I stepped closer. "You stole livestock, Lisa. That's a felony." She froze when I mentioned the camera. "You can't prove anything," she stammered. I pointed to the blinking red light on my fence. "High-res, night vision audio. Smile." Deputy Carter returned, shaking his head at the hive in Lisa's garage. Nico suited up, smoked the stressed bees, and confirmed the queen was alive barely. Lisa, covered in calamine lotion from a sting, sat on the curb, pouting. "Not pressing charges yet," I told her. "But one more move, and it's court." Carter gave her a stern talk about theft and trespassing. I thought that might end it. It didn't. A week later, during the HOA's annual garden tour, I entered my pollinator pathway with hives, herbs, and a rain barrel. Lisa tried to block it. The board overruled her. I handed out Nico's honey, labeled "Rescued from Stolen Hive 3." Lisa stayed inside, blinds shut, fuming. Then came her final move. A white van pulled up, unloading fencing materials for a new boundary correction that curved into my yard. I showed the contractors my survey map. "Build that, and you're trespassing." Lisa waved a fake survey from Boundary Services, but I called her bluff. The contractors left. That night, my motion lights tripped. Camera footage showed Lisa spraying lemon oil on my hive's poison to bees. I caught her mid-act. "You're on camera," I said. She ran. The next morning, Nico saved what he could, but one hive was lost. Carter arrested Lisa for vandalism and trespassing. At the emergency HOA meeting, neighbors turned on her and Greg. A petition with 40 signatures forced Greg's resignation. Lisa's house hit the market a month later. As the moving truck pulled away, I stood in my garden, sipping Nico's honey, watching the bees hum contentedly. Peace had returned not because Lisa gave up, but because the neighborhood had finally had enough. So what do you think? Was I too harsh, or did Lisa get what she deserved? Should I have pressed charges, or was public humiliation enough? And how far would you go to protect your property from a neighbor like Lisa? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild neighborhood stories.